Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be repairing these two bubble lights. Just a quick note, the methods seen in this video will work on these bubble lights, these Noma Biscuits, as well as the Royal bubble lights. I've already worked on my technique yesterday. I repaired 4, and here are 2 examples of completed projects. One of them needed a relamping, and I'm using these 15-watt long shank bulbs. I got them off eBay. Here's an original bulb. So this one's in good working order. This one had a broken tube. So I had a bunch of C7 bubble lights that I wasn't using, so I borrowed some of the tubes out of those. Here's an original tube from the Noma Biscuit. It's just a straight shaft. And then this one has the little glands on it. But it'll work. And that's what it looks like completed. And it does bubble. I've already pre-tested them. So the supplies needed is the school glue, various blades, and a container of hot water. First, let's get our hot water going. It's going to be a little too much. That ought to work. And then we'll use our good old friend, the 1988 Magic Chef microwave. Microwave works, I just have to keep an eye on that stir. Do 1 minute and 20 seconds. I'm just going to confirm that the stir is going. And it is. So the microwave is safe to be used at this time. Needs to be pretty good and hot, almost to the point where you can't touch it. Because I got to get that glue softened up on these bubble lights. And that's done. Caution, hot water. And we'll come over here and get started. Set that on there. Then we'll check our water. It's about 137 degrees Fahrenheit. That's plenty warm enough. Then I simply dunk it in the hot water. And now I will remove it a minute and see if this is softened up enough to remove the tube. That's going to be the first step. Get that tube out of there and put it in a safe location. Then I'm just going to put that in there and let that soak in the hot water for a little while. Get that plastic softened up a bit, and then I'm going to go set up the second camera and see if I can get a better shot of this doing the actual work. So now I will remove the bubble light assembly from the hot water. Set the hot water aside. I'm going to set it on a towel. I would highly recommend wearing a glove for this operation because the blade will slip. The first objective to this repair is to cut the ridges all the way around. And I would recommend using one of these blades, as it's got a little lip on it for a little bit more comfort. I believe we're all the way around. I may, just for the heck of it, just go over it once more, just to make sure the ridges are all cut. And this is something to use extreme patience with. This plastic is quite old at this point, and bubble lights are really expensive now, especially these C6 ones. So a good option is to buy some non-working ones and fix them like I'm doing. They're not that hard to repair. And then I'm going to heat my water once again. It's cooled down. And that's already starting to go through. So once the ridges are cut, it's real easy to get in here and separate the halves without damaging the two halves. It will be a nice clean break. But once again, before I get ahead of myself, I'll give it a quick mark with the Sharpie. That will come off with alcohol and a little bit of elbow grease once I get these glued back together when the bulb's been replaced. You can see how the two halves are beginning to split. There's a ridge I haven't got through yet. Let's soak it in the hot water. Don't want to be applying too much force, because that's just another way to get cut, as well as damage the plastic housing for this lamp. Got an air bubble that doesn't want to cooperate. Try that out. Also, a good idea for that reference point, you can pick up where you left off a lot easier on these ridges cutting around this circumference. And I'm not applying an excessive amount of force, because when this starts letting go, it's going to go fast. And that's when blades slip and go places you don't want them to go. It's been in the hot water for a little bit. I'm going to try a little bit more progress on it. And just keep going around. Now it becomes more clear why I cut the ridges first, because it makes for an easier cut after it gets started. And it looks like it's going to be time to put it back in the hot water again, as it slows down significantly on cutting. And we'll come back to that again in a little while. Okay, let's go for another session of cutting. We've made some pretty good progress. Getting close, and it's apart. Now the bulb is just about ready to come out as well. Sometimes I'll have to coerce it with the pliers. Well, the envelope came out, so we'll take the pliers. We'll get it the rest of the way out. There, bulb is out. No big deal. Very good. So now that needs to dry. We'll come back to the next step. Time for the next step. I'm going to grab a bulb here. And I'm going to take this school glue, which this is the same glue I used to repair GE lighted bells. I'm going to put some the blue base. The blue is the one I'm ready for. So I'm just going to put some glue. Would help a little bit if I opened the lid a little bit. A little more. We're having technical difficulties. Let's see if it'll work now. Oh yeah, we're good now. And I'm just going to put a little glue in there. I would like it to run down just a little bit maybe. Perfect. I think that'll do. And then just push the new bulb in. This one's a pretty tight fit, but it'll go. And then I've got to make sure it's pretty well even. And I'll just take my wet rag and wipe the excess glue off the threads of the bulb. And there's that half done. And then I guess before I put it all back together, I'll give it a quick test. Bulb lights, as you can see. And then what I'll do, just time to put a little bit of glue around here. Not too heavy. And then find my mark and put the two halves back together. And there that is. I'm going to take it over here to the vise. Set it like so. Might wipe a little excess glue off. And I'll just find something to set on it. I've got a package of ketchup here. Just what was handy. And we're gonna forget about that for a while. let that glue dry, and then we'll come back to the next step later on. And now I'm just going to do a second one just quietly. I've demonstrated it once, now we're just going to go through it. As you can hear, my water was just done being heated. Here's the second bubble light that needs a relamp. I'm just going to do it in real time. And that one's bubbling. I need to test this one here. Seemed like that one didn't start bubbling. There it goes. Good deal. I've had some that don't bubble. That should be sufficient to see if this bubble will go out. Yep. Got the bubble tube out. So let's get started on this. Again, cut the ridges first. When it begins to get tough to cut, just put it back in the hot water. Maybe 30 seconds. We're just going to go with it, keep the camera rolling. That's probably good. Hey, that one started going already, so that's cool. But before I get to getting too carried away, need to remember to mark it where the two halves will line up in the correct orientation. Let's put it in the hot water for the last cut. Take a little drink of Dr. Pepper here while we're waiting. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Oh yeah, I think this one's going to work wonderfully. And there you have it. Now, take the glove off at this point. Got to get the bulb out. And just rock it back and forth and it'll typically unthread itself. See if this one will, see, it'll do that most of the time when I work on them. And then just grab it and the base will come out. I'm going to dry that out. Grab my bulb. Put a little glue in there. Perfect. Insert bulb. They are a pretty tight fit, but it'll seat down in there. Then once again, make sure the base is pretty well level. That should do all right. They have warped a little bit over the years, so it's not going to be perfect. Looks like that one's going to work. Then apply the thin bead of school glue or similar craft glue, whatever you want. And then I'm going to line my two halves back up. Then take it over to the vise and just forget about it. So I've got them on the vise with the weights on them. I'm just going to go away and just forget these exist for a little while so that glue will dry. Probably turn my fan on, which will assist in that. And we'll come back here in 3 or 4 hours and give these another look. Proceed to the next step. Some time has elapsed, long enough for the glue to dry. I got slightly impatient, so after these dried a bit where they wouldn't fall apart, I set them down in my floor vent on the heat and turned that on, and they dried the rest of the way just fine. So they should be ready for the next step. Let's put the bubble tubes back in them. Same glue, just a little bit around the circumference here. And then back into the base. I'll do a little twisting motion, and it's a tight fit. Notice the base didn't fall apart, and I just seat it down to the bulb, and there's one done. Put it in the fixed bucket. I'll get this other blue tube out. It's got a little excessive adhesive on it from the original, so we'll get that off. And then same procedure. Don't want to go too wild with the glue. Just needs a little bit to hold it in place. It's a pretty tight friction fit. In fact, that one's real tight. And that seems like it's down in there. And I'm pushing quite hard and it's not falling apart. So I would say that's a good repair. So I have 4 more of these vintage tubes to test. Looks like it's in pretty good shape to me. Very good. And one final step that can be done. Need to remove my mark. So I got some rubbing alcohol on a green Scotch-Brite pad. And that's good. Now I'm testing them in my test socket here. I've got hooked up to my 12-volt power supply over there in the corner. So you can see they bubble on 12 volts. So that is quite acceptable. Here's the first one. Here's one of the blue and red ones I repaired. And it is bubbling away, ready to go on the tree. Let's try the next one. Here is the blue and orange one. Bubbling right away. So that one's good to go back on the tree. Let's try the fourth one I did. I did 2 yesterday, so I did a total of 6 of these. Now this last one I'm going to have to hold because it won't fit in this socket. This is the one with the C7 bubble tube. So we'll see how that performs in the C6. Here we go. See what happens. There it goes. So you can substitute a bubble tube from a C7 bubble light and it will work just fine. So once again, this has been repairing C6 bubble lights. Thank you for watching.